Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. This presentation is part of this year's Staff Success Week. So, thank you so much, Staff Congress, for inviting our office to participate. My name is Pitzel Krotova. I'm the Director of the Office of Institutional Assessment, and today we are going to talk about what else? Assessment. I know that word alone can make people's eyes glaze over. So I promise to keep this real, to keep it practical, and keep it moving. Just a little bit about me before we get started. I have spent over 15 years working in institutional assessment and effectiveness. And this work is genuinely what gets me out of bed in the morning. My background is in higher education administration, and I bring that lens to everything our office does. I'm also not doing this alone. There are two of us here in the office. We have our assessment coordinator and I. Yes, we are just two. But together with the support of the University Assessment Committee and the Provost Office, we are all here for every academic program and administrative unit at Murray State. So, by the end of our time together, you'll know exactly who is the Office of Institutional Assessment, what we expect, and more importantly, how we can help you with anything related to assessment. All right, now I want to start with something fun. I'll be honest with you, the word assessment it kind of makes me giddy all the time. It's like music to my ears. But I also know and understand that not everyone feels the same way, and that is okay. When people hear the word assessment, certain things come to mind, and I want to give you a moment to see if any of these statements or sentences sound familiar. All right? Only academic programs have to do assessment. We don't need to assess, we're already doing great. Assessment is about proving we are doing things right. Assessment is so complex. Assessment just means more work on top of everything else. Oh, so there's an Office of Institutional Assessment. Isn't that their job? Well, here's the thing. Every single one of those statements is a myth. And I don't say that to call anyone out, really. I say it because these are exactly the kinds of misunderstandings that make assessment feel harder and more intimidating than it actually needs to be. That is why we, the Office of Institutional Assessment, exist. We are not here to add to your workload, and we are not here to judge your work. We are here to actually help all of us, all of you, every administrative unit, every academic program here at Murray State, so that we need to all understand together what's really expected from us and from you as well, and to make sure no one has to figure it out alone. All right, so let's talk about who we are exactly and what do we actually do. As you can see in the slide, that's our mission statement. Yep, that's a mouthful. But what you're seeing in that is the formal version. In plain language, our office's mission is to make sure assessment happens and that it means something and that it connects to something bigger than a submission deadline. Our work revolves around driving continuous improvement through systematic data-driven evaluation. We also ensure compliance with SAC-COC. If you do not know that, it is our regional accreditor, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges, and of course to ensure we comply with the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education, or what we call the CPE. We need to ensure we comply with their standards. We're also involved in establishing and maintaining the assessment policies that guide our institution. We are also here to promote transparency and accountability. We also are doing some monitoring and tracking assessment submissions across campus, and we partner with academic programs and administrative units through training, consultation, and ongoing support. That last bullet about partnership is the one I personally care about the most. We are not here to police or audit your work. We are actually here to support it. So, who do we actually work with? So, if you look at this diagram, I like to say we serve three different masters. The first are our program and unit assessment coordinators. And more often than not, that extends to the faculty, staff, and administrative leaders within their department or within those programs. Just to give you a sense of scale, while there are 120 coordinators that we directly work with, there are currently 163 academic programs and 46 administrative units submitting assessment plans every year. And then you need to double that for the assessment reports. So that's how many submissions our office processes every single year. Now, the second master that we serve is the University Assessment Committee, or what we call the UAC. So we liaise with this committee to review assessment submissions and to make sure we align our institutional assessment procedures and policies with the MERS State's mission, of course, with assessment best practices and the standards of the SAC-COC. I happen to chair this standing committee, so I'm deeply embedded in that work. Finally, the third master that we are serving is the provost office. They are the one who basically helps us advocate for a positive culture of assessment across MSU. And this is where to whom we report aggregated assessment data that is used for both internal and external accountability. So as you can see, that's a lot of people, a lot of programs and units, and a lot of moving parts. And every single one of you, every single program, unit in our org chart is a part of the assessment process. Which brings us to the question everyone, I think, in this room is probably already thinking. So why do we do assessment, and why should you care? Why should we care about this? Let me be straight with you. Assessment is not optional, but more importantly, it should not feel like a burden. We assess because our mission calls us to ensure student success and institutional effectiveness. We assess because SAC-COC and our state regulators need evidence, not promises, not good intentions. They need clear evidence. Evidence that we are doing what we say we're doing. And of course, we assess because data helps us make better decisions for the people we serve, which is mainly students. In the slide, you'll see I've listened down some SAC COC standards that are applicable to assessment for your awareness. But I think it is also important to know that that's the floor and not the ceiling. If you know what I mean. Which tells us that assessment supports accountability, not just for our creditors, but also to our students, to the parents of our students, and also to ourselves, which connects to our mission statement and our strategic attributes and plan, because I do believe that conducting assessment and actually reporting it do align learning, services, and operations with the overall institutional values. Now, this is my favorite. Assessment basically tells your story, our story. It justifies why our office exists. So it answers what's our role at Murray State. You see, assessment is our chance to show what matters to our department or our program or unit, and what changes are making an impact and where we can do better. Also, assessment informs strategic decisions. So, anything related to budgeting, reform, or resource allocation, assessment helps back that up. And finally, assessment drives improvement. There's this research that shows that reflective and well structured assessment do improve student learning, departmental services, and operations, but only and only when we take action on the results. And by that, it means we are being intentional, we show clear connections, and we are following through. I'm not sure if you've noticed that I started at the bottom, but for me, this is the actual hierarchy. Assessment is beyond compliance. Now, if you look at that picture in the slide, I guess here's something that I would want each of you to reflect and remember about assessment. Progress, not perfection. Assessment isn't about judgment, it's about improvement. All right, so who exactly has to submit assessment documentation like your plan or assessment reports? So, on the academic side, all active academic programs listed in the Kentucky CPE program inventory are required, and that includes associate, bachelor, graduate, doctoral, and certificate programs. On the administrative side, all administrative units listed in our organizational chart. If you are not sure whether your unit is required, that is okay. That's exactly the kind of question we're here to answer. So please reach out to us and we'll sort it out together. Okay, before we get into the assessment cycle and the assessment process, let us all make sure we are starting from the same place, because everything in assessment builds on the assessment profile. So what is an assessment profile, or what are the elements of an assessment profile? So first, of course, you need to have your mission statement. This is your purpose, your basically your reason for existing, and how you connect to Murray State's mission and strategic plan. Next are your goals. These are your broad intentions. This is what your unit or your academic program hopes to achieve. You can think of these as aspirational or operational. Let me be clear. Goals are not required, but they provide a useful bridge between your mission and your outcomes. They kind of like help you organize your thinking and show the logical connection between where you are and what you're trying to achieve. Speaking of outcomes, that's the third element of an assessment profile. This is where it gets specific and measurable. Outcomes describe the expected results, like what will change or what will happen from the stakeholders' perspective. Now, when we say stakeholders, it differs from one unit to another. For example, our office's main stakeholders are the program and administrative unit assessment coordinators, which are some of our fellow faculty and staff. Now, if we're going to talk about, say, of course, academic programs or even student disability services, their main stakeholders are clearly students. So, depending on who we are providing services to, we basically create either administrative outcomes or student support outcomes, and of course, program learning outcomes for academic programs. Now, I want to pause here for a second because this is where people often get confused. So, what's the difference between a goal and an outcome? They kind of sound the same, but actually they're not. So, goals are, it gives you direction, while outcomes give you evidence. So, for me, the easiest way to remember the difference between these two is that a goal answers the question, what are we trying to accomplish from where we stand as an academic program or administrative unit? While an outcome answers the question, what's in it for me, from where our students or our stakeholders stand. So those are the main difference that can tell them apart. Lastly, as part of the assessment profile, if you are an academic program, we also have the curriculum alignment matrix, or what we call the CAM. It is basically a planning tool that visually maps how their courses or the entire curriculum supports the achievement of their outcomes. Okay, now let me show you what this actually looks like in practice. So here's career services as an example. This is not our career services, this is just a dummy version that I just created. So the mission of career services here is to support students' career development and post-graduation success. One of their goals is to enhance students' preparedness for employment. And one of their outcomes is that students participating in career services workshops will demonstrate improved resume writing and interviewing skills. As you can see, all these three are clean, clear, and connected. Right, and here's our own assessment profile, the Office of Institutional Assessments assessment profile. This is the actual one that we use, and I want to show you this specifically because I think it matters. We hold ourselves to the same standards we ask of you. So our mission, our 2 goals, and our 3 administrative outcomes are all documented just like everyone else's. If we're going to ask you to do this work, we better be doing it too, right? All right, now let's talk about how this all unfolds over time. Because assessment is not a one time event, it's a cycle. So if you're looking at this diagram in the slide, which I call PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act loop, which is anchored by your mission. So you basically start the assessment process starts by articulating goals and outcomes, then measuring the outcomes, then comparing what you observe to what you intended, and then you redesign and improve. Then you do it again. So at MER State, we follow a 3-year assessment cycle, meaning every year we do the same loop. But what that means practically is this. So you conduct assessment annually, but you and your program or unit decide which outcome or outcomes to assess each year. The requirement is that all of your outcomes get assessed within the 3-year window. So you're not required to assess all outcomes every year. You can spread it out intentionally. But this cycle happens every year, depending whether it doesn't really matter whether you assess one outcome or more. So the 3-year cycle is designed to basically manage so you can have more time to conduct assessment, to document, and of course, analyze your results. But they do have deadlines, and those deadlines really matter. Now, looking at these example timelines, you can see how program learning outcomes or PLOs, administrative outcomes or AOs, and student support outcomes or SSOs are distributed across years 1, 2, 3. Some are assessed every year, some do rotate, but the key is that nothing gets left behind across the full 3-year cycle. So I guess the takeaway here is that assessment is continuous. It doesn't start fresh every academic or fiscal year. So if you rotate and focus on, let's say, one or a couple of your outcomes each year, what you do this year is connected to what you did 3 years ago and what you will do 3 years from now, if that makes sense. All right, so what does an actual assessment plan look like? Well, let's break it down here. Your plan has 4 core elements. Well, 5 if you're an academic program. Each element builds on the one before it, and it starts with your outcome. And I want to spend just a moment here because this is the most important one. Just ask yourself this question. Does your outcome statement describe a measurable result or change that is clearly connected to your mission and goals? If it doesn't, everything else in your plan is built on a shaky foundation. If you're not sure, please reach out to us. We can help you strengthen the foundation of your plan before you actually can move forward. The second component or element of an assessment plan are your measures. These are the tools and the methods that generate data about your stakeholders. So this is where how you're actually gonna collect your evidence. The third one are your criteria and targets. This is how you define success. So you may want to ask yourselves what level of performance counts as achieving your outcome and what number tells you you've gotten there. And finally, we have the planning process. This basically describes the collaborative data-informed process your team used to develop the plan and guide the assessment activities for that year. So This basically should summarize or inform not us, but our accreditors that this entire activity or assessment process within your unit or your program isn't a solo exercise. So the expectation is that it's a team effort, it's a team conversation. And if you're an academic program, there's one additional element, which is the curriculum alignment matrix. This is already embedded in the assessment platform that we're using. So this just basically maps where in the curriculum assessment data will actually be collected. So as you can see, strong plans are intentional. They start with a solid outcome, and every element after that flows from it. Alright, so once you've implemented your plan and collected your data, it's time for reporting, or what we call the assessment report. And your report has 4 elements that mirror your plan. First are your findings. This is your raw data reported as is. So this answers what each of your assessment measures actually revealed. The main goal here is to present the facts and answer the question, what did the data show? So your tone here should be objective, descriptive, and highly factual. The next element is the analysis of results. This is where most submissions either shine or fall short. And I want to be clear about the expectations on this element. Our office is not asking you to break down results by individual class section or individual measures in isolation. We would want you to step back and look at the full picture. What do your overall results tell you about your unit's effectiveness? What strengths or weaknesses showed up in the data? Or to what extent did your processes and services meet expectations? And of course, what contributed to those results? So this is where you will combine all your measures results all together to interpret, to reflect, and contextualize and explain the whys and the hows. If findings are objective and factual, analysis, which is this element, is where we derive basically deeper meaning from that data. So the tone here is explanatory and analytical. Please don't just report numbers. That won't give you much information as to how you can improve your services or operations or students' learning for academic programs. The next element is the use of results for improvement. It's the fancy way of saying recommendations or action plans. So what are the changes, actions, or future plans do your results call for? And I'll say this again, assessment is about progress. Remember that picture of a man with snowballs? The goal is always continuous improvement, whether you hit your target or not. If you're not, if you say, for example, you're not going to make any changes, that's okay. Nobody's saying that's wrong, that's acceptable. But you need to explain how your data supports that decision. Saying we met our target is not a reason by itself. Finally, we have the reporting process, which is basically similar to planning process, but this one is about continuity. And this one matters more than people realize actually. So this one is actually how your current results connect to your previous assessment cycle. Do you remember in that timeline that we had earlier in previous slide, when I mentioned that whatever outcome you are assessing right now is somehow connected to 3 years ago or 3 years from now? That's what reporting process is all about. So you want to ask yourself, did you follow through on what you committed to last time? And did it make any difference? You see, assessment is not an annual fresh start. Again, I'm keep on repeating myself, but that's how it is. Your history matters, and the expectation is to have that reflected in your report. I actually prepared a resource document that has an example of what a strong plan and report looks like. And in that document, you will also see a dummy alumni office's plan and report that basically covers all the expectations I just discussed. So I will send a copy of that with the members of the staff congress to share it with you. All right, so once you submit your plan or your report, here's exactly what happens next on our end. So we work on a 1 month timeline. So after we receive your assessment plan or assessment report, we have a week in our office to check submissions for completeness. We need to download submissions from the platform. We need to assign reviewers and set up the review folders to put in all those plans or reports that we will assign to them. And then next, the week 2 and 3 in that table, this is where University Assessment Committee comes in. They have a 2 week time frame to review the assigned reports using rubrics. And finally, on week 4, this is where it all comes back to us, the graded rubrics. So we wrap up, we track the scores, we upload the graded rubrics back to the assessment platform that we have. We notify coordinators automatically using the assessment platform, and then we prepare submission reports to the provost's office. So as you can see, the schedule is pretty strict and intentionally so. Most of you serve students, and the academic calendar doesn't really wait. The later submissions come in, the less accurate and meaningful your assessment data becomes. And when submissions are late or incomplete, the entire review process gets delayed, which basically ultimately affects everyone. So deadlines exist to protect the quality of your work, not to make our offices easy, our office life easier. So please, when we have like a September 15 or October 1 deadline, please follow that deadline. And one important note, if the submission, the assessment plan or assessment report submission receives a level 1 rating, that program or administrative unit will have 2 weeks from receiving the scored rubric to submit revisions. And speaking of rubrics, if you are interested, you can scan the QR code in the slide or use the URL provided in there. The rubric is not a secret, it's actually a roadmap. The more familiar you are with it before you submit your plan or report, the stronger your submissions will be. All right, so why does any of this matter beyond the paperwork? I actually love sharing this diagram. Whenever I have presentation, I always make it a point that I add this diagram because it shows how every element of our assessment plan and assessment report connects directly to Murray State's mission, goals, and strategic plan. You see, assessment isn't something we do in addition to our work. It is our work. It's how Murray State demonstrates to our students, to our accreditors, and to the community that we are who we say we are and that we are always working to be better. And if you want to see that in action at the institutional level, I've provided some links in that slide that will take you directly to our outcomes assessment reports. This has always been distributed to assessment coordinators, deans, chairs, and department leaders every year. This has the real evidence of how our work, your work, contributes to institutional effectiveness. And yes, I will send these presentation slides with some members of the staff congress so they can share it with you. Finally, this is the last slide. So, if you're going to ask me, your go to resources are the assessment handbook, assessment policies, and assessment rubrics. Those documents are available on our website. Just type in this URL bit.ly/msu-oia. So you will be redirected to our website. So we just have enough resources to support your assessment work. You can also reach us in different modes. And yes, we have a YouTube channel at MSU Assessment. Please consider subscribing to that channel so you can see and be updated with some of our resources and guidance videos. Okay, I want to leave you with this. Our door is always open. We are located at 324 Wells Hall. We don't bite. We love all sorts of assessment questions. Anything about your outcome statement, your timeline, your rubric score, or if you just don't know where to start, please reach out. That is literally what we are here for. Thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.